What's Cooking with Mama Pearl. Today we are making gumbo in the crock pot. I grew up on the Gulf Coast in the United States and was very lucky. We have a wide variety of cuisines and cultures and traditions, big old melting pot. One of my favorite styles of cooking and eating is Cajun food. There are two myths about Cajun food. The first one is that everything is burned, and that's not true. Blackening is a cooking technique, not just exclusive to Cajun food, where you coat the food in special seasonings and then sear it very quickly in a frying pan. It looks blackened on the outside, but actually what you've done is release the essence of those seasonings, the oils and everything. And the second myth is, if it's Cajun, it has to be spicy. And that's not true either. Where that comes from is sometimes when you're poor and you don't have a lot to eat, you use a lot of starchy foods to fill in. A lot of rice, maybe noodles, maybe potatoes, things like that. And they can be kind of bland. So you use peppers and hot sauce and seasonings to spice things up to give them some interest when you're eating something that's real heavy starch. The recipe I'm making today is my own recipe that has been passed down for generations in my family. And it's an easy recipe in that you can use what you got on hand. Most of the ingredients I'm using today came from the Dollar Tree. And let's get started. The first thing is get together what they sometimes call the Holy Trinity. That's your celery, your onions, and your bell pepper. We're going to chop those up into 1 inch or smaller cubes, chunks, however you want to do it. You don't have to be perfect about this. For this recipe, I used 1 bell pepper and 1 onion and about 4 stalks of celery. Cut those into slices and put them aside. The next thing is you're going to need some sausage. Now, the traditional sausage for that area is called andouille. I've written it here so you can see it. Andouille. But you can use any kind of sausage you like. You can use pork sausage. You can use Polish sausage. You can use kielbasa. You can use smoked sausage. Here I've got the package. I used a package that I found at the Dollar Tree actually. You can use hot, spicy sausage if you like it hot. You can use mild sausage. All that matters, and honestly, I've made this with hot dogs before too. So it just depends on what you got on hand, really. Cut those into rounds and put them with your peppers and onions. We're going to put that in a large skillet on about medium-high heat on the stove. Now, you can use for your oil, you can use butter, you can use oil. If you use butter, I recommend using half and half of oil and butter because butter can burn. And you don't want to burn this. That's not Cajun food. So I put in about 4 tablespoons of butter and about 2 tablespoons of oil. And put that in the pan with your sausage and let that start cooking. At this point, you want to add your seasonings. Italian seasoning in the jar is a good thing to add. You want to add oregano, thyme. Like I said, I use the Italian seasoning in a jar. You put that in with your vegetables and let that cook. The dry seasoning you get from the spice. If you have fresh parsley, if you have fresh oregano, if you have some more fresh spices, I've given you a list here, you can chop those up finely and put them in too. This is a what you have on hand kind of soup. As those are browning, I got together an equal amount of flour that I had oil. So I used a total of 6 tablespoons of oil, 4 tablespoons of butter, and 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil. So I want an equal amount of flour. So 6 tablespoons of flour. I measured that out in a little bowl. And once the vegetables and the sausage were brown, I scooped them all up and put them in my crock pot, but I left the oil in the pan. And you want to turn it down to medium, maybe even medium low. You want this to cook slowly, but you still want it to, you want your grease to be hot. Put your flour in the oil in the hot pan, and you want to mix that around. Now here is my trick to making a quick and easy roux, R-O-U-X, which is a type of gravy you use to thicken soups and stews. And here's my trick for making one very quickly. I use a packet of brown gravy mix. Any brand you want. I get it at the Dollar Tree. I can get 3 envelopes for $1 at the Dollar Tree. And open that up and dump that in with your flour. Mix it all up in the pan and let it cook for just a minute or two. Now be real careful. If it sits in one place too long, it will burn, and then it won't be tasty. Remember, blackened isn't burnt. Scrape the bottom of your pan, mix it around, and just for like a minute or two. And then put that on top of your vegetables in the crock pot. Next, I added a small can of chopped chicken. You can use fresh chicken breasts that you have cooked and then chopped up. You can use leftover chicken. You can take the fried chicken from KFC that was left in the fridge overnight, pull the coating off of it, chop that up, and throw it in the pot. Any kind of chicken you want to use. I also added a 1-quart container of chicken broth, which I got from the Dollar Tree too, both canned chicken and the Dollar Tree broth. Put those in the crock pot and make sure that you've turned your crock pot on. I like to turn it on to high to begin with. The last 2 ingredients you're going to add are 2 very specific Cajun ingredients. First one is gumbo filet. It's spelled like file, F-I-L-E. You can pick this up in the spice aisle in most of your major grocery stores. You only want a little bit. I've got maybe half a teaspoon here, if that, and I'm going to put that in, and then comes the name of the soup. Well, bet you didn't know this. Okra is called gumbo in some parts of the world. So what we've made here is an okra stew, but I didn't want to tell you that up front because people go, okra? Ew! By the time it cooks into everything, it's not slimy anymore, and it comes out with the texture of the cooked bell pepper. And most of the time you can't tell the difference between the two, except there's a different flavor to the soup. So, add in your gumbo filet, add in your bag of cut okra. Make sure it's cut. It's hard to cut it after you get it. Get the cut okra. And also found this at the Dollar Tree in the freezer section. So add those in, give it a good stir, put the lid on it, and forget about it for about 4 to 6 hours. Let all those flavors come together. Now, if you want it spicier, you can add cayenne pepper. You can go to your local grocery store in the same place you found the filet, the spice area. They will have containers of Cajun seasoning. That's the best thing to do. If you're not used to playing with the Cajun spices, because what you can do is take a little taste of it on your hand and see if you like it or if you don't, and see how much is enough for your taste buds. I usually put a tablespoon or 2, but I try to be careful because it has salt in it, and a lot of times I don't like a lot of salty stuff. So usually a tablespoon or 2 after about 4 hours, after everything has broken down, the vegetables have broken down, and it becomes a soupy stew. If you find that your chicken broth is cooking off too fast and it's getting too thick, you can always add water at this point. Add it a cup at a time, no more than a cup at a time, and give it a good stir and see how that works. Because you're going to have some liquid cook out of your vegetables and out of the sausage. It might be a little greasy on top, don't worry about that. That makes it taste good. I hope I have explained how I make my crock pot gumbo in a way that you can understand it, and the recipe is down below in the description box, along with all my social media links, my Patreon page, my albums on Amazon. I have 3 of them, and some other interesting stuff. Thanks for joining me today on What's Cooking, and we'll see you soon.